Saturday night, and I've listened to a lot of people on Terry Funk's night be gracious enough to thank me for an opportunity which I was just a fan of theirs enough to present to them, be it from Joey Styles to the Eliminators to our referees, to anybody. And before I come up here and tell you how much I believe in every single wrestler that's in this room, and how much I'm a fan of every wrestler that's in this room, and how much they mean, I'd like to tell you about a man that believed in me once, before anybody else did, before anybody else gave me a chance. See, I was a photographer, and I covered a Vern Gagné show in Minneapolis, a Pro Wrestling USA show. One of the people that was there in 1985 was Terry Funk, who did not like photographers. I knew Paul Ellering and I knew the Road Warriors, and I said, hey, you think maybe I can, get a couple pictures of Terry Funk? And Hawk's gonna go, yeah, just go right up to him. He's a real friendly guy. And I'm kind of heading over his way, and Jimmy Garvin, who I had known from the New York City nightclubs, he goes, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm gonna go get a picture of Terry Funk. And Hawk said it was okay. And he goes, don't fucking do it. Don't fucking do it. He's going to chase you around his dressing room, and he's going to have a good time doing it. God, if he catches you. And I went up to him and said, get the hell out of here, you son of a bitch. And he takes off going, what the fuck was this? And I never saw him again until he came to Atlanta in 1989. And I was terrified of him. As everybody else has told you tonight, we're terrified of the guy. And I was terrified. He's like, oh my God, I came down to beat the shit. He'd be able to just in Minneapolis. I don't want to go to Minneapolis. And everybody's going, hey man, that's Terry Funk. I know. I just stayed away from him. I was terrified of him. And we went to a show, and he didn't even talk to me. I mean, I told him stuff like, thank you. I'm going to be the same dressing room user. Hello, Sonny, what the hell's your name again? And we did a show in Amarillo. And I met Blue, his daughter. And Terry's walking around and he goes, so, he sits down next to me in this nightclub and he says, so, Sonny, what do you think of Amarillo? And I'm from New York, and I go, well, it's a nice place. I've never been here, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be back. And I'm glad that you live here, and I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm from New York. I've never been to Texas, And he goes, that's a nice deal. You're riding with me tomorrow, by the way. You're riding with me tomorrow. We're going to talk. God, I'm going to ride with Terry Funk. He's going to fall on the side rope. I did something or something. Beat the fucking shit out of him. So, we're driving down the road, and he says, he's playing radio, and he's driving 500 miles an hour, and it's crazy. He's drinking a beer. I'm like, oh my God, he's drinking a beer, and he's driving a maximum. Terry wanted to shut the hell up, Sonny. I'm listening to the song. The radio. I'm sitting there going to learn about wrestling, and he's talking about country music. He's talking about Dusty Rhodes. He's talking about Amarillo and his dad, and I can't get a wrestling story out of him. And I'm going, he's going to beat the shit out of me. So the night's over, and we were going to separate towns because we were running through towns tonight. He gives me his phone number and says, hey, Sonny, call me. I want to talk to you. And I called his number, and Vicky answered the phone. Terry was out eating up a cow or something. and I said, Mrs. Funk, my name is Paul Hayes. They call me Funk. Oh, it's you, Paulie. I've been hearing all about you. You met my daughter, and my husband thinks he's the funniest guy on TV. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to hop here in line. You'll kill me. And I said, well, it's a pleasure talking to you, Mrs. Funk. Can you just please tell Terry that I called. I hung up the phone. I was like, oh my God. I said something wrong. I was like, he's going to beat the hell out of me the next show. Well, the next show was Memphis. And it was Eddie Gilbert against Terry Funk on top. And Eddie had Missy in his corner, and we were done. I worked with the Samoan SWAT team, and we were done for the night, and I'm sitting in the back, and I got my shirt unbuttoned, and my belt's off, and I got my phone in my bag, and I have a Coke in my hand. And I'm sitting on the soda, and all of a sudden I hear, God damn, where the hell are you, Sonny? Where the hell? Who the fuck is Funk yelling at me? everyone wants this match. And he grabs me by the hand. He goes, let's go. I go, go. Where the fuck are we going? We're going out to the ring. He go, what? We're going out to the... No, I'm not going. I'm going. No. He goes, and he's pulling me and he's looking around like this. And I'm going, out here. I'm managing Terry Funk. I don't deserve this. And Flair's going to kill me when he finds out about it. So we get out to the ring, and Eddie's there with Missy, and I look at Eddie and I were so tight, and I look up. He just like, I don't know what the fuck you doing here either, you know? And Missy doing her dance. And I go, Terry, what the fuck am I doing? Shut the fuck up. And he gets on the mic and he goes, Paulie, I'm going to tell you this once. If that douchebag gets in your way, slap the fucking piss out of her. And he puts down the mic and goes, I'm fucking shooting too. Oh my God, oh my God. I'm going to have to beat up Missy, and if I don't, he's going to beat me up. I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. So, they have this whole elaborate thing set up, and Terry's climbing the rails, and he's chasing after the fans, and he's chasing after me, and I'm going, I'm your manager, and he's after Missy, and he's beating up Eddie, and Terry goes to the top rope, and he has this whole thing that he has in his mind, and I'm just sitting going, man, how is it going? And then Eddie's on the canvas, and Terry goes to the top rope, and he goes like this, and I'm going, wow, look at this, man. This is Terry Funk, man. This is Terry Funk in action. And he's, whoa, and all of a sudden he stands up straight, puts his hands by his side, and he goes, fuck it, I can't keep my balance, and he falls off, and he goes straight through the table at ringside, head first. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I don't remember hearing about this. That was pretty fucking impressive. I look up at Eddie and I go, wow. He goes, fuck over there, he's dead. So I run over there and I'm thinking, oh man, Flair's gonna kick my fucking ass. He's gonna think it was mine, right? And I go over there and he's there and he's dead. He's lying there. He's lying there, he's not even doing this stuff. He's dead. He's motionless. I cup his neck, and now I'm crying because I figure he's dead and I'm dead and we're all dead. And I look up at Eddie and I go, he's dead, Eddie! Eddie's dead! He goes, I know he's dead, I know he's dead. And I go, Terry, you okay? Terry, squeeze my hand. Terry does something. He goes, you know, I don't have that many bumps like that left in me. And he got up and he beat the shit out of all of us that night and put on a show that to this day was awe-inspiring. I rode with him for the next week, and a week later is when he broke his tailbone. And now the book goes. You know, I mean, this is where the story gets heavy. And this was the story of ECW. Terry broke his tailbone in Macon, Georgia. And I was fortunate enough to ride with him to Savannah that night. And I had heard stories about his toughness, and I had heard stories about how raw-boned he was. And he's in the car, and I'm looking over, and I saw tears going down his face, and he wouldn't acknowledge it. And I said, Jesus, man, he's in pain. And he wouldn't acknowledge it. And right before he pulled into Savannah, he turned to me and goes, I'm goddamn hurt. Fuck, I'm hurt. And this was 3 weeks before the Great American Bash in Baltimore with him and Flair. And it scared me because I never heard Terry Funk acknowledge he was hurt. He was hurt. He broke his ass. Literally broke his ass. He broke his tailbone. So I took him to the hospital the next morning, and he didn't want to go. And I said, Terry, you gotta go. I don't know. I said, go. I took him to the hospital, and they x-rayed him. doctor came in the room and he said, Mr. Funk, you have a broken sacrum. You have broken your tailbone. You'll be okay. You'll be back in the ring in about 9 months to a year. And he says, I have a match on pay-per-view in 3 weeks. And the doctor says, no. If I have to admit you in this hospital, you don't have a match in 3 weeks. Forget it. In a year, maybe. Not now. And when the doctor left the room, I looked at him, and he was devastated. And I said, it's the pain. He goes, no. I said, it's the fact that you can't wrestle. He said, no. I said, is it because you think they're going to screw you over? He said, no. I said, what is it? And he said, there are people who in 3 weeks from now are paying to see me work with Ric Flair. And they're expecting a hell of a match. I'll be goddamned if a doctor or a broken ass or anybody on the face of this planet short of God himself is going to stop me from getting into that ring in Baltimore and giving the people the show that they paid to see. Man had an elbow that puffed out to here. They drained it. His knees were swollen. He was wearing knee braces. They were working him on the road 34 straight days that month. Double shots against Sting, against Eddie Gilbert, against the Steiner brothers. Every baby face in that promotion was programmed against him, and they were drawing money for the first time. He was carrying the promotion on his back. He broke his ass, and the only thing that was going through his mind was the fact that the people paid to see him do his thing, and he would be damned if anything would stop him. That night, I called my father on the phone. My father, who is one of the hardest working men I've ever known. I said, Dad, I met somebody who has that same work ethic. I met somebody who loves what he does. I met somebody who takes such pride in what he does and the fact that people have believed in him, that he cares that much that he'll make this type of sacrifice for the people who paid to see him. On that night in 1989, I prayed that I would find one, let alone a dressing room full of wrestlers, who would have that same work ethic, who would take that tradition to the next level. And I looked around that dressing room in WCW, and there's no need to mention those names because it's not their night, it's his. But the fact is that there were very few guys in that dressing room that had that work ethic. There were a lot of guys that, you know, hey, I got a cold, I'm off for a week. Hey, I got an ingrown toenail, I need a month off. He didn't take it. They forced him not to work on TV that night. They forced him not to work for the next week, and then he put himself back in the ring 8 days later. And he had a match with Flair on pay-per-view that to me to this day was Flair's best match, with the exception of your I Quit match with him. Moral of the story is that when you look around in ECW, what you see is a tribute to Terry Funk. Because the criterion to work here is the willingness to work through an injury like that. The criterion to work here is to have that work ethic. The criterion to work here is not charisma, is not size, is not marketability. The criterion to work here is the first thing I look for in somebody, is work ethic. And I learned that work ethic. I idolized that work ethic. And we built a dressing room filled with that work ethic because of the example that has been set and was set since 1989 by Terry Funk. He set that example. This dressing room is a tribute to him.